I understand why you call yourself a chief human officer now. It's really understanding these people as people. You also said that it has to be applied across the board, all the way through to the end where you're actually measuring different things. There's different KPIs. Can you give us an example? Like you talked about average handle times before as a traditional KPI.
Yeah.
What are the traditional KPIs that you're not as worried about anymore in the new KPIs that you want to focus on?
Yeah. Handle time is one that I'm excited to see more and more centers drop off of the agent scorecard. It's not that I don't believe, but we don't have to measure those things, by the way, just to clarify. It's the question becomes whose accountability is it? And who's focused in it? And how much focus should they have on it? And so one of the ways I like to start with mapping out an employee journey is start with who are you? Like, who's your company? What's your purpose? Do you even have a purpose? Most companies don't really have an aspirational purpose or vision. We want to have this much EBITDA and be the top restaurant in this industry. And I'm going to butcher this, but Dove has something along the lines of making people feel comfortable in their own skin, which is so different than I want to flog. So if that's the purpose, if that's the vision, how do you translate that into the service center? So I'm a big fan of creating service center purposes that support the organizational purpose. I'll give you an example, an actual example of when I was at Sonnet. So I helped launch Sonnet Insurance in Canada, and we wanted to change how Canadians felt about insurance. I can't remember what we landed on the final, but was that, are we care enough to change everything? But the point was, is we were very aware that people don't trust their insurance companies. They don't know what coverage they have. They don't know if they're going to get claim covered and so on. We want to change that. And we want to change what people think about contact centers. We want to change your experience with us in this interaction. And so that changed. We didn't hire insurance people. The organization worked on changing all the language of our policies to layman's terms, to simple terms, so that anybody can understand it. We didn't focus on those traditional metrics. We didn't focus in training. We didn't focus on a knowledge dump and a systems dump. We focused on, here's the kinds of calls we're going to get. Here's the experience we'd like them to have. Here's the product information you'll have to access. Here's the systems information you'll have to use to do that. But the focus isn't about learning, memorizing the product and the system. Those are the enablers of the overall thing. But the focus is, here's what they're calling in about, and here's how the experience we want to create. So it was more of a scenario-based focus. And then when they got out onto the floor, we had a quality program that was outcome focused. So it was more about how defining what we want the customer to feel. So in this case, we wanted them to feel valued and heard and cared for, which are pretty standard. A little bit different there was we wanted them to feel a little surprised. And that was part of our purpose. I work with a high-end winemaker that owns estates in Niagara, and they chose Pampered. So the brand starts to infiltrate into, because they have beautiful estates where you come and you can stay at their hotels and you can do wine tastings and tours. And so they wanted that higher end white glove. So that infiltrates into the quality program and focusing on that. The question is, do we think we did that? And why? What were the cues we heard? What did we not hear? And by the way, it is hard to run a quality program like that. There's a reason why we shy away from it, because it's so much easier when we have binary questions. Did you do this? Yes. You didn't do it? No. Makes for an easy conversation. You can't dispute it. We're not going to have a, no, this is, you did it or you didn't. The problem with that is you're crushing the best down to mediocrity. So allowing them to focus on, I want the customer to feel this way. And what cues did we get to think that if we did? And why didn't we get there? And maybe, like I said, it's using the customer's name, and maybe it's not. So that has to be in support of it. You have to drop handle time, adherence, because I know that was your question. I still never really answered it. Handle time, adherence, even absenteeism. All of these things are important, but they move to what I call outlier management. So Steve, I trust you. I need you to be responsible and not take forever in wrapping up and start playing Sudoku and not actually wrapping up your call. I trust you to make great decisions with the customer. I trust you to be here every day. I'm really going to focus on how great an experience you can create. And I'm going to measure that maybe through the survey, maybe through sentiment analysis, maybe through quality, maybe all of the above. And the only time I'm going to talk to you is when you've broken the trust, or if there's something happening that is out of character. So that's the outlier management. So why you used to have a 10-minute handle time and now your wrap up has exploded. Why is that? And even that, managing those metrics as outlier metrics versus goals, I encourage leaders to look at that with curiosity, not suspicion and judgment. So why is that? Did we launch a change and you missed the training and you didn't realize you can get there with 3 faster steps? So the assumption going in should be that you're not doing anything wrong. And then of course, it inevitably will come out if you really are, if you are being malicious, if you are taking advantage. That becomes very clear in that process. You do not have to say to all agents, I don't trust you to hit handle time, because a few agents may legitimately abuse it. You will manage that in outlier management. So it's changing those kinds of things over and just being really laser focused. What is it? At the end of the day, we're not trying to hit an adherence or an occupancy or a handle time. Those things impact the experience, but the experience is what we're trying to create. And incidentally, things like handle time usually are more influenced by systems, IT, process, operational decisions, missing knowledge base articles, lack of training. Those usually are way more influential in handle time than an agent taking an extra 10, 20, 30 seconds, or maybe even an extra 10 minutes because this customer needed that kind of support. And the last thing you want is your agent thinking about talking to this customer and taking any mind share away to a clock. That should never be in their mind. I think the point is you just want to bring all these things from who you hire to who you train, to what you train, to what you measure, not the traditional metrics, more the outcomes, to what you coach to and support, to what you build into your recognition programs. And if you promote somebody and you recognize somebody, and this happens in every environment, not just contact centers, it's so critical that you focus on the people that everybody know is great, which again, the metrics, if they're in conflict with that, which they often are, the person who's the best with customers in a lot of contact centers doesn't do so well on quality or handle time, and they continuously don't get recognized, or they do, but so does this person who has great handle time and quality, but really bad customer experience. You're sending this mixed message and signal. That continuity of what you expect has to be live and breathe throughout the whole life cycle.